Hello and welcome to Gaming with Soul, seeking soul through the lens of gaming and pop culture. I remembered the tag this
Yay!
time, forgot the fucking rest of
Yay!
it.
Do
Jeez.
you remember your name?
No, I have forgotten that. Hi, my name is Jamie.
Hi, I'm Corin.
Uh,
It's already going to be one of those days.
yeah,
Well,
it started one of those days.
in that energy, let's just throw down this warning. We have been diving into and looking at archetypes, how they connect to gaming and pop culture. Last week, we took a good look at hero and warrior. This week, we are going to dive into some shadow work.
Yeah.
Shadow work. Now, for those who are not familiar with the term, shadow work is gritty stuff. In the terms of psychology and modern day spiritual growth, especially the shamanic stuff, shadow work is talking about those aspects of self that are hidden and repressed.
Yeah.
Now, the theories brought forth by Carl Jung is that we cannot truly heal until we integrate our shadows. And our shadows are those elements of self that we have been taught to hide. That because of our sensitivity, because of our emotions, because of our creativity, because of our personality, we have been told it's too much, to shut it down, to don't be so sensitive, blah, blah, blah. All these things which teach us to hate parts of self. Now, we carry with that not just what we have learned in this life, but all the karma and all the energies and all the history of our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents. We all carry these shadow aspects that have been taught and programmed into us. Now, when working with the archetypes, these energetic patterns and embodiments, every time there is a good one, there is an aspect that is in shadow. And actually, the shadow aspects kind of have what they call a bipolar element attached to them, whereas one element is passive and one element is active. And integrating and bringing balance to these two aspects of shadow is what allows us to stand in the divine. Now, the thing with shadow work, and I'm going to put this down now, this episode with the elements that will come up will probably trigger you. And by
Yeah.
trigger, it means it may upset you, it may make you angry, it may bring up a very strong, instantaneous response. And it's usually when trigger is like, oh, I don't do that. If you get that kind of instant, oh, no, stop just for a second, and I beg you to stop and really, really, really face yourself with honesty and curiosity and say, hang on, do I? Is this something I do? Because if you can identify it, you can heal it. By bringing your shadows to light, that's how we overcome it, and that's how we can break free of these old shadow patterns that prevent us from being our true, authentic, and powerful selves. Now,
Yeah.
we talked last week about the shadow. We talked last week about the hero.
Yeah.
And the hero is immature. It's basically, he's the highest level of immature masculine energy, about how hero wants to test their limits, to push themselves. They're on a mission. They have something to accomplish. There's a great deal of focus and energy, but there is the immature aspect where there's kind of there's something in it for me, there's something I need to do, but it's more on that personal level. They want to heal, they want to rescue, they want to save, but there is more of a personal aspect. They're pushing limits for the sake of pushing their own limits. They want to push themselves to the brink. Whereas warrior shifts into the more I fight for purpose. There is some higher purpose that I must serve. Now, both of these aspects have their own shadows. And this is where it gets very, very triggery, because the hero, when the hero goes into his shadow, there are two aspects. One of them is what they call the grand stander bully, and the
Yep.
other is the coward. Now you go into warrior. The warrior's shadows, interestingly enough, are the sadist and the masochist.
Oh, I know
Which,
both of those quite well as well.
so do I. And this is the thing that I really want to highlight to everybody. We all embody the archetypes. Whether you are
Yep.
male, whether you are female, whether you are undefined, whether you stand in your masculine energy in a feminine body, whether you stand in a feminine energy in a masculine body, whether you are a complete meld between all of them, we all embody these archetypes in
Hmm.
some way, shape, or form.
I can recognize in my own life and stuff like that areas where I embody a couple different ones.
Yeah. And
So
it's the same with myself. And I see that a great deal. It's like, yes, this part is me, this part is me. But even though what we are looking at are traditionally domains of masculine energy, I identify with a lot of them. And a lot of them, when I first identified these within me, were really confronting.
yeah,
It is a really hard thing for us to own our shit sometimes. And when you find and connect to someone where they will call you out on your shit, that is actually one of the greatest gifts a friend can give you. Say,
yeah,
hey, when someone goes, blah, 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 and you can actually, can you see that this is the truth? And you just want to go, no, it's not. No, it's not. Blah, blah, blah. That's not what's happening. And then later on, you sit down and go, well, shit.
sometimes if you
And again,
actually can do introspection.
and that is actually one of the greatest signs that you are evolving and healing and awakening is the ability to stop and introspect on self. Because the
Yeah,
moment you keep projecting all your problems and all your issues in your life on other people, you've rendered yourself powerless. It means
yeah,
everything in your life is up to everybody else, and that's not the way it is. We have so much power, but we need to reclaim it. And that's kind of what we're on about with these and showing different ways to do that. But it's interesting where we're talking about hero, warrior, and these two aspects of the shadow hero, which is the grandstander and the coward, because there are two aspects that we can really kind of highlight if we look in the Marvel universe. I mean, from the Marvel universe, true warrior is a rare thing. I mean, if you had to list anyone from just the Avengers that we see at the moment, Captain America would have
yeah,
been the warrior because
very
he
much so.
serves higher good. He's not interested in the publicity. He's not interested in the ego. He does what he does because out of a sense of duty. He
Yeah,
was the epitome of perfect soldier, perfect warrior. He can detach himself emotionally. He can focus himself logically, and he fights for the sake of fighting, for the higher good. And
right
then
up
when the
until you throw
when the,
Bucky in it. Right up until you throw Bucky into it, then he
and
loses his fucking mind.
that is because he steps out of warrior because his emotions have been triggered.
That's fair.
And that's where warrior steps back into hero because some emotional aspect has been triggered. This is why they say pure warrior is not an emotional creature. They do not allow their emotions to get involved when standing in warrior energy. Now, this
Yeah,
unfortunately is what a lot of our poor soldiers fight so hard when they come home, that they have stood in this warrior, follow orders, do what is necessary in order to complete the mission, what we have been, basically serving the higher good, serving the purpose. Whether or not it is the higher good, it's that archetype. It's like we are serving, we are performing, we are fighting. There is an emotionless element that is bred out of them in order for them to be warrior. But when they get home, they have a hard time stepping back into life
yeah,
because they have to reintegrate their emotions again. And usually they've been through things that's so traumatic that their emotions are shot and they need to do a lot of healing and a lot of work to be able to live a normal life again. And it's hard for them. When we look at the Avengers 2, we can also see the grandstander and we can see the coward to a degree. Okay, now I'm probably going to get a lot of anger here, but Tony Stark and Iron Man is our grandstander.
oh yeah.
Okay.
Hands down, not a there. That isn't
No.
even a question. Like that's his character flaw. They point that out constantly.
Yeah, but the element of bully does come in there as well. Now, although he is not typically that bully-esque energy, he does demand respect. He does demand admiration. He does want everyone. He wants the attention. He wants all that. But also on the flip side, his mission is redemption
Yep.
because he wants to make up for the fact that his company sold all these weapons of war that were killing all these people.
Yep.
So he has these two aspects within himself that turn him into the hero that titters on the shadow of Grandstander Bully.
Yep.
Grandstander, absolutely. We can see elements of him bullying when he steals information, when he tries to get everyone to manipulate everyone to doing what he wants, why he is not telling everybody the truth. That's the bullying aspect that comes
Yep.
through from him. The coward comes through in Bruce Banner the Hulk.
In Banner
Because
specifically, I think.
in Banner specifically, yes.
Yep.
Just tying it into, yes, the Hulk does not have that. Absolutely not. And that's kind of the point. The Hulk was everything Banner was not.
Was not. Yep.
And when Banner chooses to align with his warrior, then yes, he can focus. And we all know in the stories that when he lets the Hulk out, he has more control.
Yep.
But when it comes out in rage, he has little control. When he lets it out, there's a little bit more control that's involved in that.
Yeah.
But he ran for so long, using the whole I'm dangerous, I can't be trusted, blah, blah, blah. Now, again, yes, in his particular circumstances, yes, that's kind of true.
Yep.
But in running away, he didn't solve his problems.
Yeah. Oh, there's a
And
decent amount of running away in a lot of the Avengers, but yeah.
well, I think that's one of the big stories that comes into any hero or any good movie. Let's face it, any good movie usually has the point where the heroes feel defeated, where
Yep.
everything went shit. They've demoralized, they've lost their way, they feel like it's all hopeless. Most movies have that. That's a big part
Yep.
of storytelling. And you
Oh,
see that in Legends and things too.
Yep. To cut in real quick, I apologize if she gets a little staticky through a lot of this, or digital staticky. There's a storm going on where she is, so
Oh, I do apologize. Is it that bad?
it started to get a little bad near the end of that. So I figured I'd warn it.
Bad weather.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so we see this a lot in storytelling where the hero kind of runs away for a little while, and we saw it big time in the Avengers where they all got broken up and they all went their own different ways, and then of course something happens, they regroup and come back and save the day. I mean, that's a storytelling hook. It's not as big in games, but you do get it, where it's like, hey, look, I've defeated the bad guy. Oh, look, that wasn't the bad guy. Oh, look, everything now's gone to shit. But it's just one of those big ways that they tell, it's the plot twist and story excitement and such.
There's even moments of that is the hero in like Final Fantasy 15, in a way. Noxus kind of runs away from everything when Lady Lunafreya dies.
Yeah.
He can't handle going forward because the woman he loved was murdered, and so he just kind of gives up. And what's frustrating about that to me is they actually show both aspects, because he gives up and he's just like, what's the point? He sulks and he gets sullen. And the best character up until that point in that game, I actually hate him after this point. His best friend becomes the bully because he starts screaming at him about it. And not that buddy, hey, man, it's going to be okay stuff either, or tough love. He's literally screaming at him on a train. Like, you think you got it bad? The woman you love died, but this guy over here, one of the other characters, lost his eyesight. He has it so much worse than you do. And it's like, you need to stop.
Yeah, sometimes those elements of bad storytelling it's just like, could you not have put 5 minutes more thought into that?
Yeah, well, and I think it has to do a little with cultural stuff. and
Yeah.
a little to do with, which I don't want to get into really, and a little to do with, they wanted a reason for him to be mad at Noxus and to everything to kind of fall apart.
Yeah.
Um,
The shit stirring between characters.
yeah,
To
and
create that tension which builds story and suspense and blah blah blah, which
yeah,
again we understand from the storytelling perspective but can be really annoying at times.
yeah, because it literally made my favorite character my least favorite character after that, because he's just kind of a wank for the rest of the game. Just kind of constantly angry and just yelling at people, and I'm just like, you just go over there.
But I mean, we see this, and this is the thing, we all have these aspects of in trying to be hero when we're not 100% perfectly aligned, which again, most of us are flawed human individuals struggling to get our shit together. So we all at time will embody these aspects of shadow.
Yeah,
And again, the more we bring these shadow into perspective, into the light, then the more easily it is for us to integrate that shadow and heal it so it doesn't keep manifesting. Because of course, the more we repress stuff, the more it comes out somewhere else. And that is really, really shown through the two bipolar faces of hero and of warrior.
yeah,
I mean, yes, okay, the grandstander bully is known for his arrogance, okay? And he feels invincible and just takes these ridiculous risks and puts the rest of the team in jeopardy. I mean, we've all played with someone who kind of doesn't care and will just go out and do something, and then 10 seconds later, they're dead.
yeah.
So, well, that didn't help us as a group or a party. And it was sheer bravado, it's sheer overconfidence and
Yeah,
trying to prove themselves invincible and immortal, which, let's face it, we're not.
yeah.
Nobody is. So yeah, the grandstander. I mean, it's a typical thing for the grandstander. I mean, they're that hero that stands in the middle of the village at the end of it and say, "Worship me. Where's my
Yeah,
rewards? Where's my kudos? Pay me off." And if he doesn't, he goes into a rage. And that is one of
there's
the
a lot.
emotions of grandstander is rage.
Yeah. One good example of that is Cypher from 8,
Yeah.
however you pronounce his name. He starts as your team leader and becomes one of the main villains of the game because he wants everybody to kind of worship him and whatnot. And he's like, well, I'm the best, blah, blah, blah. And then when he doesn't, because of his arrogance, and ends up falling short.
Mm-hmm.
Like the company you work for looks at him and goes, you are too much of a risk because you do all these things. So we cannot pass you on to the next level. And because of it, he goes into a rage and takes over another, because they're schools, takes over another one and attacks the first one with it.
Yeah. I
That
mean,
was
that's no,
going
no,
up
no,
there.
no. This is often it's a good example of actually what happens where when we don't have the ability for boys especially to go through their masculine rites of passage. One of the natural or the nature driven rites of passage is basically the grandstander getting a taste of his own medicine. He gets his
Yeah,
comeuppance. So his arrogance, the domination, this demanding of respect, their invincibility and their risk taking comes back at them in a big way, and they pay the ultimate price, either
yeah,
by bringing themselves close to death, the loss of someone that they love, the loss of some great important thing. It becomes nature's way of forcing a person or an energy into evolving from hero to warrior,
yeah,
moving from the immature to the mature, because basically now all of a sudden their ego has been shattered, and that is
yeah,
usually what rite of passage is. It is death. but it's not physical death. It is death of ego. It is death of self.
Yep.
That identity of self. But what we aren't always aware of is again the passive shadow, which is coward. Now, it's a harsh word to tap into, but it took me a
Yeah.
long time to realize that all my people pleasing, peacekeeping, trying to make sure everyone is happy and trying to keep everyone around me in a good place is me being a coward.
Yep.
And that was a hard thing for me to own. So no, I'm just, I'm a peacekeeper. It's my job. I keep everybody happy. That's who I am. Kind of a coward.
Yep.
And when I'm really honest with myself, yeah, that's true. Because I don't like fighting and I don't like conflict and I don't like confrontation. I used to avoid it like the plague.
Yeah. And there's even moments in my life where like I'll see something off to the side and I'm like, I should probably go help. And but I get that I get that anxiety that just makes me go, I can't, and I just avoid it.
Well, I mean, we're taught in a lot of ways too. It's like, walk away. To walk away is actually more mature and grown up. Look, there will always be times that, yes, that is actually the sensible and the logical way, where it is not a sign of cowardice. It's not a sign of
Yeah.
cowardice if you're facing off against someone and there is no point. There legitimately is no point. There
Yeah.
are times, and some people that are just not worth the energy. They're not worth the time. You will never get through to this person. So to save your own sanity, you end up having to walk away. But that is very different between walking, doing that because like, this is pointless to this is painful or this is
Yeah.
awkward or this is uncomfortable. This is making me feel squidgy. It's
Squeegee.
because they're putting the pressure on me. So rather than keep fighting, I'm going to, be the people pleaser and back away and just do what everyone tells me to do. Again,
Yeah.
it may be a short-term fix, but it will create the worst long-term
Yeah.
solutions, the absolute worst long-term solutions. And the problem with the coward is the coward represses their emotions. And so when they do come out, they are explosive and devastating.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it
That's
comes from
actually,
bottling. This is the problem with bottling up our shadows and not facing them. When we don't
yep.
own the shit that pisses us off, when we don't own our feelings and the emotions, even the shitty emotions that say, you know what, I feel jealous about that, or I feel envious about that, and validate the fact that, yeah, I'm actually allowed to have these feelings. There's nothing wrong
Yep.
with that. But the more we repress this, the more we believe that we're not allowed, the more we turn into a pressure cooker.
Yep.
And we just bottle and we bottle and we bottle, and then something triggers us, and all of our emotions come out in one long rate. And that usually comes up as rage. And the thing is, someone usually cops it, but the person we're actually the most angry with is usually ourselves.
Yeah.
If we own it, it's just like we're angry with ourselves for letting it get to this point, for us not standing up for ourselves, for not dealing with this sooner, for not owning it, for any number of different things. And this is where that rage comes through. So the more we can integrate these two aspects and allow them to be healthy within ourselves, the better we can be that embodied hero and then grow into being embodied warrior.
Yeah.
Now, the masochist and the sadist from the warrior perspective are a little bit different. They're actually a little bit more destructive.
Oh yeah.
Than coward and grandstander bully. Now, again, the hero was in it for himself, but the warrior was serving a higher purpose. The warrior is also known to be, the warrior is aggressive. As an energetic, as something to embody, he is an aggressive energy. And yes, I'm using the term he because typically warrior, again, is masculine. But again, I'm talking about this energetic that women embody as well. So regardless of where you sit on the gender spectrum, this is an energetic that you can embody. But warrior is aggression. But if you actually look up the term aggression in the dictionary, I mean, after, you know, aggressiveness and things like that, aggression is just about purpose. It's this effort, energy. They say something that's effort, energy, initiative, and force are the true definitions of aggression. Aggression, assertiveness, this ability to stand up for self and stand up for other. And of course, this is prominent through our games. This is kind of most of the time when you're playing an RPG, you will embody some kind of hero or avatar that has this element. Because again, if you haven't got an action filled or have some assertiveness in your character, they're not exactly going to be your hero in a game.
Yeah.
So that aspect has to be there. But aggression is not good and it's not bad. Aggression and assertiveness used in a positive way are fantastic. These are the things that give us drive, they give us focus, they allow us to achieve our goals, to succeed in those elements in life that we want to succeed in, because we need an element of that aggression. It's like, yes, we all need to live with warrior. Now, yes, warrior is not going out into the street cleaving people with his sword anymore. Hopefully.
Man,
sorry about
I miss
that.
those days.
It's not
cleave your
advisable
enemy,
in suburbia. It's not
Please,
a good look.
Well, I don't live in suburbia. Cleave my
true.
enemies in half with an axe.
Yeah, sorry, those old days are long gone.
I know.
But warrior is still needed. It's just we fight very differently now.
Yeah. It's more about words.
Yeah, for us to embody warrior, we just need to find new ways to fight. We need the energy. We need to stand. We need to embody warrior again. So we make sure that we stand up for truth. This is what our current age of evolution is about. It's about truth. Things are becoming so much more transparent now. And everyone's like, oh, the world is such a bad place. And it's like, no, we can see it now, which also means that we can see what we need to fight against, what we need to stand up for, what is right. And yes, you do not need to fight everything. You don't have to fight everything all the time. Trust me, it's exhausting.
All the battles.
But when you find something that calls to your soul, it's one of those, again, if you do not answer the call, those passive aspects of shadow will come out in rage and frustration with self.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's best if we do that. But our warrior, look, he is, or the warrior energy is very, very focused. Very mindful, very mind focused. They are disconnected from their emotions, not completely, but enough to engage focus. It is when the warrior, sorry?
I just said, yep.
Okay. It's when the warrior, again, does not know how to reintegrate emotions. He turns into sadist. That is, again, the military father who comes home and expects perfection, expects his children to be as perfect as soldiers, as well trained as soldiers. That if you come home with a bad report card, will belittle and demean and talk down, because again, that's all they've been trained. Whereas a warrior, if you came home with a bad report card, would show you they're disappointed in a kind way. Just like, look, you know you could have done better than that. Okay, how can we do better next time? And work with you to get the tools to improve. That's warrior. That's actually even going into sovereign there a little bit. But true warrior stands with that power and that energy. The sadist usually has unrealistically high expectations. And that's of everything, especially themselves. again, a lot of the rage they tend to carry is self-loathing because they can't be as perfect as they expect themselves to be. So
And
they hate themselves for it.
that comes out a lot in gaming, when in an MMO sphere, when it's not to the extreme, but when it's things like, you're running a raid, and maybe it's a raid you've ran a million times, maybe it's low level content, and you wipe because there are people who don't know the mechanics as well. And you instantly snap to, this is bullshit, and leave. We should never wipe here. This is bullshit, I'm leaving. And it's like, okay, that wasn't helpful. Yeah.
And that's literally what it is. I mean, the sadist destroys everything around, tears down, pushes out, destroys. We see this a lot in villains, but we can also see this in characters and players too. They're the people that will go through and just destroy everybody's shit.
Yeah.
Just because they want to, because they think it's fun, because they get some pleasure from the destruction of other. The masochist is the flip side of that, where they are the coward to the point where they are the ultimate people pleaser. Where most masochists, and here's a hard truth to own too, most masochists actually have a bad case of martyr syndrome.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And for anyone who's not familiar with martyr syndrome is one of those where you are constantly sacrificing yourself, constantly sacrificing your pleasure and your joy for other people, and then to be able to take the moral high ground. To say, well, I couldn't because I was looking after this person and I had to do what they wanted and I had to do what they wanted. I had to own. That's another big one I've had to own big time. Got that programming from my family. This constantly giving myself up because I don't care, I don't count, I don't matter. Everyone else is so much more important.
Yeah,
and
it's
it again comes from the disempowerment.
Yep. It's like when I was talking about last week, when I was talking about hero, like my own hero, this and that, where I'd say things like, I would take the beating so no one else would have to. And it's partly because of a strength, but it's also partly because after a while you start to feel like you deserve it. I was put here on this earth to be beaten.
And that comes from, again, being beaten down a lot. So you get to that point, it's like, what's the point of getting up if they're just going to beat me down? Again, I'll stay down here and let everybody beat me, because if they beat me, then they're not beating each other. It's kind of like poor Meg in Family Guy. Don't know if anybody ever saw that episode where, she realized that the whole family falls apart the moment they're not ripping her apart.
Yep.
She was their lightning rod of hate. And if they were all ripping on her, then the rest of them got on. And so she chose to be the martyr. And that is the masochist. That there is an almost a sense of righteousness to the sacrifice, which again is so disempowering. It is so unhealthy, and it's actually really unnecessary. Here's a juicy little thing that hit me like a ton of bricks when someone actually called me out on it. People pleasing, going around making other people happy, doesn't help anyone.
No, not particularly.
It doesn't help them, and it doesn't help you. Because if you're constantly going around telling everybody what they want to hear, how the hell are they going to grow? How the hell are they going to know when they're screwing up and they need to improve? Now, there's a big difference, again, about being a dick.
Yeah.
And going up to someone and going, hey, listen, that's not okay. Yeah. This is not okay. This is not acceptable. And I cannot, in good conscience, continue to do this. It's not about not standing up for yourself. It's how. You go up in someone's face and start roaring at them, well, of course they're going to have a bad reaction to it.
Yep.
But if you go and just say, look, hey, I'm sorry, but, and state your case and speak for yourself and speak from your heart. Look, yes, you may lose some people, but you probably needed to.
Yeah.
And the more honest and truthful you are, the more you will find the people that are better for you and healthier for you. But yeah, it was a big lesson for me that, all this self-sacrificing, people pleasing was just a sign that I wasn't strong enough to stand up for myself. and also that it wasn't helping anyone. It wasn't doing anything good. I thought it was a good thing that I was doing.
Yeah.
It's not. It really isn't. And it's just so, so important for us to be able to claim our truth, to stand in our truth and own that. And yeah, your truth will evolve just as you will evolve as you move through your lives. It's absolutely imperative.
Yeah.
But we've got to be honest about it. And yeah, stop flogging ourselves because we either feel we deserve it, or because if we do it, then somebody else won't.
Yeah. It's okay to be a little hard on yourself when you make a mistake. It is not okay to tear yourself apart.
There's not even a little hard on yourself. There is simply the, okay, that was dumb. Let's not do that again, shall we?
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah,
look, it is
that's fair.
so, so good in your life to say, okay, I fucked up. That was stupid. What the hell? Why did I do that? Okay, well, now I know what not to do.
Yeah.
Every failure, every time you drop the ball, every time you screw up was a learning experience. And if you say, okay, now I know what not to do, I won't do that next time. It's not an excuse to beat ourselves up for it. It's not an excuse to punish ourselves. Even when we know we could have done better, there's usually an aspect of our shadow that was at play. It's a learning experience and go, okay, why didn't I? I knew I should have done this, and I knew I should have done that, and I knew if I had done it this way, it would have been better. Why didn't I?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, we do get very caught up in our own self-sabotage. And it does tie into the masochist, and it does tie into these shadow elements, either because of a lack of worth, a lack of confidence, because we've been beaten so badly that we honestly don't feel that we can.
Yeah. That's
And
fair.
it sucks. It really does suck. But we, rather than waiting for the hero to ride into our lives and make it all better, we need to embrace our own hero and become our own warrior in its truest sense. Integrate these hidden, shadowy aspects of selves so we stop doing the shit.
Yep.
Because when you integrate those shadows, you can see it start to come up and go, oh. And yeah, the further I go down this path, the better I get at this. Where you can say, okay, I'm starting to do that. Nope. And catch it.
Yeah.
Pattern interrupt. It's like if you catch that pattern as it starts to manifest, it's like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that this time.
Yeah.
This time I'm going to go this way, or go through this door. Or I'm going to try it a different way.
Yeah. Like we've discussed outside of here, and I picked up from Dr. K, because he is fantastic. If you haven't watched him, for gamers specifically, he's trying to help gamers with game addiction. He's a psychiatrist that I like a lot, but he says, don't deny yourself those darker spots. Allow them a chance to speak and to sit at the table, but don't let them control you. And I'm paraphrasing what he says a bit, but he says it way better than I do, but that's because he trained to. So I mean,
yes,
like that's his job.
But it is the truth of it. It's the more we can say, hey, shadow, hey, little self, hey, ego, hey, hidden aspect of me, what are you doing in there?
Yeah.
Why are you there?
Yeah.
And the more we dive into it, the more we can uncover this.
Yeah.
Again, though, I want to stress to everybody that shadow work is not easy.
No.
And it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
If you have real serious traumas, if you have a lot that you have been through in your life, but you are being called to do some shadow work, please find a medical support team to help guide you through this process.
Yeah.
This is not something for someone really battling with things like PTSD and other really intense health issues, for them to do on their own. With the right network, with the right support, with the right tools, we can all overcome our shadows. Some of us can do it ourselves. Some of us can find some spiritual path to follow that helps awaken this within us. Some of us need the psychological help and support network. You find what works. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of psychology, a little bit of spirituality, and a shit ton of self-will.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you truly want to, you can overcome and you can heal and you can become more whole and you can reclaim your power. You can do all that and still be an absolutely awesome human being.
Yeah.
In fact, it will actually make you a better human being. And here's another little thing that is really, really, really good to know about personal health and personal healing. The more you heal yourself, the more you live from your place of soul truth, soul knowing what is true to who you are and your highest good, the more you actually heal the people around you.
Yeah. I can attest to that. I see that. Like, the more I focus and try to help myself and whatnot, the better I seem to be at communicating with people and helping them kind of pull themselves out of the shit too.
And that's part of it. Firstly, it changes with the way we interact with the people around us. And the
Yeah.
way we interact with people around us, that will then shift our relationships with them.
Yeah. Oh,
And then the more we teach or the more we embody what we have learnt, the more they will actually pick up
yeah.
and start embodying and growing. I want to really stress that for me, this has happened with my mum.
Yep. And
And yeah.
for me today, it like one of my best friends literally said to me, and you've known me for long enough to know that how kind of shocking this is. He literally said to me, "You have become one of the most laid back people I've ever met."
Yeah, the rage, and this was from the rage bear that I first met 3 years ago.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
because there was an incident earlier today and I kind of lost my temper a little. And it's the first time I've really lost my temper in a long time, but it's because of a breakdown of communication. A little on my end, a little on their end, and I saw that and came back and fixed it. And like I was talking to a friend of mine to kind of calm down, and I'm like, seriously, I've said a million times, just come and talk to me if there's a problem, and they didn't. And he goes, "You are one of the most laid back people I know," and he has known me for 7 years. So or actually, it's been longer than that. It's probably been 9 years now. And so he was there when I wasn't laid back. He was there when
Yeah.
I was super rage, angry, shouty, you know. We talk about the grandstander bully would be a big chunk of
Yeah.
what I was at the time. And while I still tried to have people's best interests and tried to help people, I also would just shout at them sometimes. And if somebody wronged me, it would be literally a fight, like not physically fighting each other, but I would just start screaming and, how fucking dare you? And, I ended a 7-year friendship with the words, "This is no longer a game," or "I'm done playing this game. We're through." But that's a whole big story.
But it is, let's be honest about it. Who we associate with will dramatically affect our personalities. And when we are consciously aware of not just those around us, but those who we choose to give our energies to, you can actually watch yourself shift. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
if you choose to stick your friendship out with the toxic people that tear you down and lead you astray and get you in trouble and make you hate yourself, it's just going to create more and more of that.
Yeah.
And this is one of the big things, and especially when they start talking about dark night of the soul, when you go through your big, deep shadow healings and deep workings, you will inevitably go through what they call dark night of the soul, which is when you start being really truthful and honest with yourself, your life kind of falls apart a little bit because you realize just how much you've compromised and just how much you've not been true to yourself, and so things don't seem to fit anymore, and certain friendships start falling apart, and you're like, oh my god, what the hell am I doing? This is changing everything. And it's like, yeah, that was the point.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
What
sorry.
one of my teachers, sorry, I just want to finish this. One of my teachers, she conned from somebody else this term that says it's not actually dark night of the soul, though. When we go through dark night of the soul, it's not dark night of the soul, because soul is having a brilliant time.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
soul, when you're going through something that triggers growth, that triggers you to be more aligned, to stand in your truth and all that sort of stuff, the soul thinks it's fantastic. Ego, little self, our id, our personality, that is what is going through its dark night.
Yeah.
Because all the projections that we thought about ourselves, we're realizing this is not who we are. And as
Yeah.
it shifts, it's uncomfortable. It's
Yeah.
really uncomfortable, which is why having the right support, the right community, the right environment is absolutely imperative. And that was one of the reasons we're also creating our community.
Yeah. I feel like I kind of robbed you a story about talking about your relationship with your mother. So if we want to circle back to that, please do.
Yeah, look, mother wounds. I mean, they're men and women, and again, everybody on the gender spectrum. The mother wound is one of the biggest ones that we can carry.
Yeah.
The wounding with our mothers, even regardless if we've had really good relationships with, there are our mother wounds are not just with our mother, our biological mother, but with that matronly woman energy. Mother has been, I mean, let's face it, the whole being a mother and a housewife was kind of pooed on for a while. As we
Yeah.
came out of the 70s into the great big sexual revolution, all of a sudden women wanting to stay at home and be mothers and housewives, how degrading.
Yeah.
My mum, look, oh, I love my mum. My mum she's a good, strong, hardworking woman, but she was hard. She was very, very hard. She came from a very judgmental feminine line, and there's this hardness that was built into being woman, to being mother. And I've had a tough relationship with her that I think it was simply she didn't always understand me. She didn't
Yeah.
get me. I'm, again, first psychic that popped out of my family. My family thought I was going to join a cult or something like that. But since I have done the big, big shifts, my mum, it's almost like she's stepping into her witch now. And it's awesome. It is so
Yeah.
awesome to see when I stopped trying to please her all the time. And that was actually the big thing. When I stopped trying to please my mum all the time and started saying, no, mum, that's not the way it is. And this is the way it needs to be done now. The more I stood, the more respect I gained.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the way it is for everybody. I am well and truly aware that there are many people that cannot, for so many different reasons, heal their relationships with their mother. And I truly feel for all of them. This was just simply a story to explain how we can shift things, how we
Yeah.
can shift family dynamics, how we can shift our relationships when we shift ourselves. And again, we can use our modern day stories as ways to connect into this, to see and to reflect, as a way to reflect our inner stories with the outer.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to feel in what needs to be woven into this. I mean, we've had a good long talk about heroes and warriors and their shadows. And again, to be and to stand in the divine, we have to incorporate both aspects of the shadow and basically integrate it so it stops
Yeah.
leaking out inappropriately.
Yeah.
We are going to explore and dive deeper into a whole bunch of other archetypes too. We're primarily going to be focusing on the main Jungian archetypes simply because they are the most prominent, and every other archetype that's around is a variant of these. It's like it's a mixture of either these two or these two or these three and these ones and
Yeah.
whatever. And rather than looking at them purely from the masculine, we will look at the masculine and feminine aspect as well.
Which we keep saying and then completely forgetting to mention the feminine versions of the entire time.
Well, no, not really, because hero is masculine energy.
Yeah,
and
that's
when we talk about, and when you actually do some research on hero archetypes and you look at female or women heroes in movies, they are almost always portrayed as a masculine version of hero.
Yeah, that's
okay.
fair.
There is, again, only a couple that actually show true feminine. And one of the ones, when you really sort of dive into and research feminine heroes, the modern day one they like to use is Katniss from the Hunger Games. Yeah, I'm not a huge. I've watched them all like once, and I don't remember half of them. It just didn't appeal to me.
To clarify, my side was not a dislike for the topic, but I don't agree that she's a good feminine hero because she's a hunter. Like the books talk about it all the time. She stands I suppose I have a hard time identifying the feminine hero energy to begin with, but they talk about the reason she does a lot of these things is because she's just been hunting for a long time. She is warrior. I will not argue that at all, but
yeah, look, again, I don't see her as a perfect example of, but she's literally one of the very few that they actually mention. And the reason she is put up as an example of true feminine warrior or feminine hero is because her emotions are present.
Oh, that actually makes sense.
Okay, her emotions are actually present. She has fear, but she still fights. She has compassion and kindness, but still can kill when she needs to. She can still fight and be warrior when she needs to. But she does all those while still embodying what is technically feminine energy, which is emotion, being embodied emotion at the time, but still being able to push that aside in an instant to focus. And then once the focus is over, the emotions come back in. That is why they highlight her as true feminine, and why a feminine warrior is a little hard. Because even when you look into Amazon as an archetype, it's pretty much masculine, but a little bit emotional.
Yeah. I was gonna say I still have a hard time with that with Katniss in the books because she actually goes into a lot how she doesn't feel anything. Like she touches on that.
I haven't read the books. Again, I think I was a bit too old for the books.
I think in some of the later ones, yes, there is definitely, I can see their point, but especially in the first one though, she's like, because she has to fake a relationship with PETA, and the entire time she's like, I don't actually feel anything, and this is weird. Like that's how it comes off a lot of the time. Is, I mean, I kind of like him, I guess, but it's weird. I'm doing all of this just to survive. The stuff with Rue would definitely be female warrior then, if that's the definition. Because the stuff with Rue is she wanted to protect Rue because she thought Rue needed protecting because Rue was a lot younger than her and reminded her of her little sister. So a lot of what she was doing was because it reminded her of her little sister who. So I guess I can kind of, the thing is I can kind of see it, but there's also a lot of moments where I can't. Because like the reason she stood up in the first place, yes, that's female warrior because she did it to protect her sister. But even then, that was kind of a panicked moment. The reason she tries to protect Rue and works with Rue is because it reminds her of her sister, and she feels that innocence and that youth is special and needs to be protected. She also sees Rue's value in a lot of ways. When Rue dies and she completely loses her shit and kills the person who did it, I could see that as female warrior. because she does. She
Again,
kind of pushes the emotion aside to do what needs to be done to take the vengeance. But even that could be Hero.
mm, but still, the problem with, and the reason they used Katniss is simply the lack of better.
Yeah, and that's
The
true.
lack of better options. Again, you look at Wonder Woman. Okay, this she has got the masculine fighter. It is
Yeah,
this masculine warrior. It's single focused, devoid of emotion. Perfect example of that is Ms. Marvel. I mean, she to
yeah,
me was grandstander bully.
yeah,
There was a real element of grandstander all about Miss Marvel. So that
yeah,
feminine is there. Scarlet Witch, yes, the hero is definitely there, but she again, she's redemption. She always talks about
yeah,
her ledger. She wants to clear her ledger.
yeah,
It,
yeah,
it's hard to find that true
yeah.
feminine warrior.
I suppose that makes a lot of sense. And like I said, later in the later books, I definitely see it. Like the entire hospital scene during the book, where she goes to the hospital and she just goes through and is so touched when she sees all the wounded people. And so like she decides she wants to be their symbol and the thing that they hold on to. That's definitely a good chunk of female warrior there, especially because after when the hospital gets blown up, she absolutely loses her shit because of it,
Mm-hmm.
and does something completely insane. But again, that could also be, you could argue that's for redemption. She is redeeming the people from the hospital. But it's
Yeah.
also, it's more her motivation is the people she is fighting need to be stopped because they will just blow up a hospital full of wounded people without a
And
second
that's
thought.
warrior. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is a warrior's motivation. Also, to be clear, you can be both at the same
yeah,
time. You can have the warrior's motivation, but still have a little bit of hero poking you along the way too. You can
yeah.
have a
So
little
yeah,
bit of hubris while standing in. Again, we can incorporate. And this is why when you look at archetypes, you know how I was saying there was like 100 and something? There's over 325 archetypes recognized in psychology now.
yeah. And it's
325, and they're all just blends,
yeah, just different blends
slight
of
variations
yeah,
of this. It's like it's this, but with a little bit of this and a little bit of this.
yeah. Because nobody is just one anymore.
Yeah.
Like there
No,
probably was a time when that was true, but
I find it hard to think that even prehistory that that you couldn't be warrior and mother, warrior and
no,
father. We've always been a mix of everything.
yeah,
It's just
that's
how
fair too.
these are the primary characters, the primary archetypes, the primary you know elements of the story that we see repeated over and over. But along this line, to any aspiring writers, artists, creators out there, give us some real female warriors,
Yeah,
real feminine heroes, where they stand in their femininity but can still overcome, be sensitive and weak, and become strong and powerful. Because it kind of disempowers a sensitive young girl. It's like, well, they were always kick ass. How did they become sensitive to strong? To
yeah.
warrior. We need
And
these for our feminine.
again, listeners who find these stories that exist, because of course we haven't read every story. We don't know every game.
Absolutely. I'm very out of touch. I'm getting a little bit old, so I don't necessarily see all the new stuff that's out there, but I know it wasn't around when I was growing up.
Yeah. Because like any hero I can think of that's feminine off the top of my head, she's right. They kind of just start badass. Like even Alloy. Alloy
Mm,
would be the one that I would argue is warrior, but at the same time, she's kind of not.
yeah,
Um, and she just starts as a badass from the beginning. There is no like from
yeah.
a child, she gets hit in the face with a rock, and she kind of just stares at the bully who does it, and is like, "Someday I will be more powerful than you." That's just her thought. Like, I don't understand why they're doing this. Someday I will be more powerful. I also haven't beaten that game, so it's very hard for me to talk about like how she changes throughout it and this and that. But
Yeah, yeah.
um,
But
I
yeah,
will say
it's
though,
it
she go ahead.
No, you go. Keeping on your thought.
I would argue that she stands in hero, if even feminine hero, quite a bit, sort of. Because she's doing this because no one else will, and she knows there is something out there that needs to be explored, that needs to be found to protect the people that she cares about. And in the end, she's the only one who can, and she knows it.
Yeah. And that does feel very much like Warrior.
Yeah. By the way, Alloy, just because I know you probably don't know, Horizon Zero Dawn.
No. Okay.
Alloy.
Yeah, no idea.
That's why her name is so silly. Alloy is she was born from basic, like, again, I haven't beaten the game, so I don't know all the secrets, but as far as I've made it, she was kind of just found in a doorway of this like mech temple or mechanical temple in a world where machines try to kill them, so they don't like them. And she was ostracized from her village, raised by an outcast, and then on her day of proving to become one of the warriors for her tribe, shit goes real sideways, and all of the people during the proving die. She's the only one who survives.
Wow.
Because I can't remember exactly what happens. I think a bunch of enemies show up, like human enemies from a different nation, and just fucking kill everyone. And so, like, as the only survivor to make it, and as the robots, because the robots are like, they take the form of dinosaurs, which is really funny. So they're big robotic dinosaurs. As they start to ramp up and like there's something wrong with their programming now and they become more hostile and this and that, she goes on a quest to kind of stop them. And her only reason for doing it is because it needs to be done. Wow. And she is the only one who can, because she found a piece of tech that will work for her and no one else. And that's it. That's her whole reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yes, she wants to be considered valued by her community, but that's not really why she's doing it. And there is an aspect of she's doing it to figure out her past. She's doing it for answers, but she's also doing it because she is the only one who can.
Yeah. So that it is both. She's standing in both. It's the both and.
Yes.
And yeah, that is the truth when it comes to archetypes, is you can stand in both. I mean, standing in pure, divine, mature energies is a bloody hard thing. Yeah. And, you know, to be honest, anyone in this world who tells you that that's all they stand in is lying.
Yeah.
There is no one who will not have their moments.
Yeah.
Because we all get tired, we all get stressed, we all get exhausted. So yeah, we can all weave into, we can be complete. And this is one of the big things you can do, all this incredible, amazing personal growth work and evolve and ascend and stand in your power and all that sort of stuff. And then the next day have a shit day.
Yeah. Like, because there's even days where I'm like, yes, I definitely stood in my divine, you know, adult masculine.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely stood in hero, or sometimes sovereign, or magician, mage, cast. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whatever. Magician. Thank you. That is the right word. Magician. I was right.
Yeah.
Yay! I was right.
Medicine man, we prefer to call it though, in the medicine man energy. But yeah, it's archetypal. It's they talk magician.
The wisdom, but, you know.
Yes.
The wise.
The wise one. Yes.
I you know, there are days where I'm definitely like, yes, I stood in this energy, or like even maybe not full days, but specific moments where I'm like, yes, I was fully in that energy in that moment. Mm-hmm. And then there are days I'm pouting in my room like a little child, and then there are days where I'm being the hero and doing it for glory, you know. Mm-hmm. Like it happens. And granted, I am not, I haven't been doing this for as long as you have, of course, but even like 10 years, I've only been doing it, what, three and a half, yeah. 3.5. I started this path. So like, yes, I am not at the beginning anymore. I would argue that I have come a very long way, but I still can see that, one, there's a long way to go. And the truth of the matter is, and this is kind of one of the first things you got to realize, is It's a journey, not a destination. I will never be able to just stand in the full adult, whatever aspects all the time. That's impossible. And that's kind of the first step along the way, is realizing that it is okay to fall short.
Well, Carl Jung himself actually said that incorporating your shadows is a lifelong journey. Now,
Yeah.
yes, I have been a working psychic for 23 years. I have been on my path for over 30. I've still got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of work to do because it's like an onion. Every time
Yeah.
you peel back a layer, every time you find something that needs healing, and every time you heal it and you integrate it and you transcend it, guarantee you'll find something else.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, now I've got to deal with this. We call it de-rubbling. It's like you take the top layers off and then you find bigger rocks underneath it. And so then you have to start digging through that and you find even bigger ones. Dig, 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 dig.
I want to point out the fact that you didn't say dig the first time you said diggling.
Did I?
Yes, you went and you start diggling.
Diggling. I'm diggling through
so,
everything.
So if
I need
anybody
more
heard
coffee.
me start laughing at that moment, that's why. I'm not mocking or anything. I just thought it was hilarious.
But yeah, look, the whole thing is yes, healing is a lifelong journey. But it does get easier and it does get better.
Yeah.
Yes, you will have your dark nights of the soul. You will have your moments where you're sitting there going, "Oh my God, is this all worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth it?" And I can tell you, yes, it is. Absolutely, it is worth it. Million times over, but it will suck. And that I can promise you.
And I will
It'll
even say,
suck.
from in the 3 years I've been working with you, you have also grown quite a bit. And this is coming from you've been doing this for 20 some years and whatnot.
Yeah. The last few years have been, I've done a lot of very, very heavy work too. A lot of it's come from working with you, and that's simply having someone to call me out.
Yep.
Someone to call me out on my bullshit. And I honestly, and I swear to you people, if you have a good friend, what we call a soul friend, who can call you out on your bullshit when you are having one of your little penguin flapping, oh, it's all too hard, it's all too much, it's all unfair, and call you on your shit.
Yeah.
Keep them. Keep them.
Yeah.
These are the best friends that you can have.
I will fully admit, though, that I worry sometimes I go a little too far, but
yeah, but sometimes, again, when you've created a connection with someone, a friendship with someone, you have an ability to read it to a degree, and sometimes it's that ability to know how far to push. And yeah, with the lack of it, sometimes I need a good hard energetic wake up call. Like wake up, stop it, grow up. Pull your shit out. Because yes, unfortunately, being a mystic and following along with the energies, astrology, the planets, the movement of everything, it gets to me. The energy resonance of the planet, it gets to me. Who I work with, it gets to me. I'm an energy sensitive. It does. And if I get a snowball effect where I'm tired, I'm unwell, and my energies are being drained, and the astrology is shit, oh, forget it. Throw in hormonal, and I'm a lost cause. And yes, I will go into little girl wounded princess. Oh, it's all horrible. Everybody hates me. And then, yeah, sure, a day or two later, it's just like, oh, for God's sake, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Understand, though, that the need to, or the changing of emotions, and that can simply be the feeling like the whole world is coming to the end in the morning, and then by lunchtime, you're actually really, really good. And then the end of the day, something else has set you back off again. This flowing of energy is really a strong, powerful feminine energetic. Feminine energy changes frequently, changes constantly, and it can change from moment to moment, from day to day, from instant to instant. So know and embody that. Even you guys out there, if you're going through one of those moments where you're just changing your mind constantly, changing your mood constantly,
oh God, Lord knows I do.
Yeah, it's just embodied feminine energy, again, which has nothing to do with your sexuality. We use the feminine, masculine simply because there are no better terms for them.
Yes,
this
and
is
I will
how
take
they
my
are
hammer
referred to.
again. I will take my hammer again, and I will keep beating this point. One of the first things to get rid of some, and of course it's not it's not going to solve it, blah, 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 blah. One of the first steps is understanding that it is okay for a guy to have effeminate moments. It's fine. It doesn't make you less of a man. It doesn't make you a pussy. Get over your shit. I hate toxic masculinity. It annoys the fuck out of me.
And girls out there too, I want you to own the toxic masculinity inside of yourselves.
Yeah.
Women have been programmed to try to blame everything on the place of the planet. It's toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity. Well, we women are really good at perpetrating that ourselves.
Yeah.
I come from a line of women that were very masculine. Now, they were mothers, they were nurturing, had nothing to do with their sexuality, but their personalities were quite toxic masculine.
Yeah.
And when we say toxic masculine, we are talking about emotions, beliefs, and thought processes that are used to control.
Yeah.
To control and to manipulate and to weaken anything that is sensitive, gentle, soft, compassionate.
That was one of the first lessons you taught me.
Yep. Because being sensitive, gentle, soft, and compassionate does not make you weak.
Yep.
It makes you human.
Yep.
Sensitivity, softness, and compassion. If you are fighting the good fight and you are bawling your eyes out while you are fighting, that is the epitome of strength. Yeah. Because it means it is breaking your heart, but you're still doing it.
Yep.
Just like having fear doesn't make you a coward. Running away makes you a coward. Standing with your fear and continuing to fight is the bravest thing anyone can do. It actually means you are braver than the person standing next to you that has no fear.
Yep.
Because they have nothing to overcome. It's costing them nothing to be there. But if you are fighting against your emotions, your feelings, and your thought processes, but still doing it, give yourself a round of applause. Cheer yourself on. Because it means that you are strong enough to push through your own feelings and do what needs to be done.
Yep. Yeah,
it's so important.
I did that thing I do again. I don't think you heard me at all because you were kind of full rant, and so I was just kind of like, okay, I'll try to talk. No, I can't cut it. Okay, I'll try. No, I can't cut it. That's
sorry.
Fine.
Okay, you can cut it now.
It's perfectly fine. I'm not worried about it. But no, I did that thing where in the background of you talking, something hits my brain, and I just go to some pop culture reference that is just weird. And so you're like, fight the good fight, and in my head, I went to Fallout 3. Because there's a radio announcer in there who talks about fighting the good fight. He's constantly talking about that. So you're like, fight the good fight. And I go, 3 dog in the background. Because that's who I am.
It's a good example of to where some messages can come through, though.
Yeah. And again, like, this is supposed to come back to pop culture at some point, and today we kind of didn't as much, which is fine. There will be days when
I warned you, shadow work is juicy and like that, and if we are going to address, you wanted to go into the shadows.
I know.
So we went
trust
into
me,
the shadows.
This is kind of exactly what I wanted, and I was sitting here the whole time trying to figure out. I was letting you go, but also trying to think of examples in pop culture. And I'm like, it's real hard to find pop culture examples for some of these.
When we start looking into the shadows, it will be, yes, the archetypes will be able to identify. I mean, next week's we're talking about sovereign. I mean, traditionally they list that as king and queen, but sovereign is the term that we will use because that is actually the balanced, just leader. And leader is a big one that we need to address. So that's our next one that we're going into. Of course, if there are any archetypes or anything that you guys want us to dive into, come and find us on social media. Come and find us on Facebook, our Facebook group, Gaming with Soul podcast. Yes. The Gaming with Soul podcast. Come join us in there. Come and have some discussions with us. Talk about what calls to you, what you thought was rubbish,
Yep.
where you want us to dive deeper, any topics you want us to cover. Know that we're holding a good, safe gaming community there for people who want to have the big discussions as well as the little ones.
Yep. Yeah. And to that effect, I do actually have the email set up. So that's a step in the right direction.
Yay!
Yeah. Yeah, I got the
I've
email
almost got
set
all
up.
the artwork done for the Facebook stuff. So when we are ready
Awesome.
to pop that up, which will be very shortly.
Yep.
So by the time
Yep.
this goes to air, you guys will definitely have a place to come and find us and yeah, share
Yeah,
your thoughts, your feelings.
Yeah, especially because we're recording these 6 in advance, so that way we have a buffer, and this is our 5th one. So we're
Yes.
almost to releasing the first one, which we still have some work to
Yay.
do. But no, I was thinking about it, sitting here staring at my game shelf too, and like a couple examples, I can think of at least one to bring up. Talking about grandstander bully, there is one definite one that comes to mind, and that's Handsome Jack from Borderlands 2. He believes what he is doing is the hero's work, but he is very everyone should bow down and worship me for it. And he's doing it by literally murdering thousands of people like it's going out of style.
Wow.
There's a story he actually tells you part of the way is some guy approached him, and I forget why they approached him, but he gouges out his eyes with a spoon, and he's laughing about it. He's like, I gouged out his eyes with a spoon. You should have saw him. It was great. He's walking around bumping into shit. And it's just like, and he's calling himself the hero and you the villains the whole time. Because he believes what he's doing is righteous.
It is one of the little things that comes down to, you know, who is the hero and who is the villain. A lot of the times it comes down to a point of perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, of course, in games and stories, there is the ultimate BBG, you know, the absolute evil incarnate just wants absolute domination and destruction. But in truth, that's usually not who our villain is.
Yeah.
It ultimately depends on whose side you're on.
And one of the things I like to point out is some of the best stories, you're not actually playing the hero. Like there was I haven't actually played the game, but I think it was Call of Duty: The Line. I know the game is called The Line, but I forget what franchise it is. No, Medal of Honor, The Line. You're actually the bad guy, if I remember correctly. Like you killed hundreds of your own people because the order told you to, and it's that game is a slow descent into madness of you realizing you're actually the monster here.
Yeah, that's hardcore. I mean, Creed kind of touched on how transparent or how thin the line between good guy and bad guy was when they shifted. When they did, I mean, Assassin's Creed 4 with Edward Kenway, the pirate
Yes.
one. They literally, after they did that, they brought out Rogue, which was like 4 part 2 or something like that, which was pretty much the exact same as Black Flag, except you were an assassin who became a Templar. Now, of course, in the AC games, of course, the assassins were this great group of righteous people trying to, you know, undo the, you know, the order of the ancients or whatever the hell they called themselves in that particular game. But of course, the main character for Rogue, whose name I believe was Shay, he was asked by the Assassins Bureau to do something that cost thousands of people their lives.
Yeah.
And the Bureau was like, this was the righteous thing to do. And Shay is like, I just killed thousands of innocent people. I don't think so. And he flipped sides. But it was a really, I mean, yes, okay, it was the designer's way of cashing in on the game one more time, because it literally was the same map and the same mechanics and everything else. The storyline was just used, everything else was the same. It was just the reverse. You were undoing everything that you'd done in 4, you did in Rogue. But I found it was a really interesting way of really honing in as to who was the good guy and who was the bad guy is really just a matter of opinion. It is really just a matter of your personal experience, because both could be right.
Yeah.
And both can be wrong. The good guys
Like,
sometimes do terrible things.
yeah,
Terrible things.
there's several culture examples where the villain isn't actually that bad, and you're kind of looking at what he's doing, going like, I get it. I mean, he has to be
Yeah.
stopped, but I get it. You know?
Yeah. And that comes up a lot, quite a lot, where it's just like you almost want to go with the villain. It's like, I get what they want to do. And what they're trying to do and the ideal behind it, actually, it makes a lot of sense, but it's not the right way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. But
And they just
either way,
they don't have the patience or the time to do it democratically, diplomatically.
yeah. And unfortunately, we could probably continue talking about this for another solid hour, but your kid should be home any second, and my phone is about to die.
Minions! Minions, yes, my minions are on their way.
So we should probably wrap this one up. We'll
Alrighty.
record the last one in whatever, either later tonight or tomorrow or another day.
Okay.
But right now you have stuff to do with Minions, and I have to run to the store real quick because I promised my wife I would. So
fair enough. We must be domestic.
Yay! We must live actual people lives for a while instead of the voices in your radio.
Yes.
If this is on a radio, I'd be surprised.
Someone could have jury-rigged something.
I guess.
Just a skin.
I mean, an iHome.
And
to be fair, iHome is a thing, and so is, like, I had a speaker that I guess is kind of a radio, but either way.
Yeah, no worries. Go to adult. Time to adult.
Yeah, time to go adult. So all of you have a day.
Yeah, you take care of you next time.